So we want you to hear now directly from one of the local nonprofits that's been a recipient and steward of United Way dollars, and I think that we would all agree provides critical services to members of our community. Dr. Jackson Griggs is CEO of Waco Family Medicine, a community health center that serves 61,000 members of the Central Texas community and one of United Way's longest partner agencies. With 20 years in family medicine, Dr. Griggs has trained 150 residents and co-authored 30 peer-reviewed articles in medical and psychological literature. In addition to serving on various state and regional boards, Dr. Griggs is a member of numerous local nonprofit boards and chairs the Waco Family Medicine Institute, which operates a family medicine residency where he himself trained and was chief resident. He was most recently honored as Waco's Person of the Year for his community leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Griggs will give you one example of how United Way's dollars, your dollars, impact local nonprofits and are shaping Waco and McLennan County into a place where people want to live and thrive. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Griggs.
So I was in Reagan National Airport a few weeks ago, sipping mediocre airport coffee, and I was tired from the slog of emails on my phone. So I was happy to distract myself by watching this lovely 2-year-old toddler explore her environment. She was staying close to her mother, but I got particularly curious when a man, roughly 35 in age, just large, 6'2" in stature, inked with ominous tattoos across his face, settled in close to mother and child. Distracted mom gave a moment of this pristine 30 accidental, uninterrupted seconds for natural social experiment. And you know what I saw? Wonder. This little one stood there marveling, and the scowling man's face softened. And then I saw this flicker of delight and affection come over his face. There in the airport terminal was this brief moment of connection, as if both human beings, by instinct or some deep spiritual impulse, recognized that they were both in the world together, that they were family. In George Saunders' 2013 commencement address to the graduating class at Syracuse, he suggested that most of us as we grow old and approach death, don't regret the things that we think that we're going to regret. We don't regret, failure of some great professional achievement or some grand adventure. But what we find ourselves regretting are failures of kindness. Those moments, he says, of his own experiences, are moments when another human being was there, in front of me, suffering, and I responded sensibly, reservedly, mildly. What if we could really encounter our neighbor, the person in front of us who is this wondrous, eternal soul? What if we could see them as they are and respond accordingly? By neighbor, I mean to include those who struggle with just day-to-day basic needs. And those who have strikingly different or unique cultural practices. And I mean those whose political signs in their yards declare an affiliation different than our own. Yeah, even those folks. But what if instead of other, instead of them, we saw our own kin. We saw our family, our dear brothers and sisters. What if we saw them as us? It's probably a little cliche, but I'm a fan of C.S. Lewis. In his work of theological fantasy, The Great Divorce, he opens up with this setting of hell. And in his hell, people can magically manifest material desires instantly. But strangely enough, despite having everything that they want, people aren't happy. The trouble is that they're so quarrelsome, Lewis describes. Before a person has been there 24 hours, he quarrels with his neighbor. And finally, he'll move right out to the edge of town and build a new house. But even that seems too close. Eventually, they move so far off that they are astronomical distances apart, millions of miles from us and from one another. In Lewis's hell, those with all the goodies move further and further apart from each other until they are living in total dejected isolation. Question. We live in the third most wealthy nation by median income, but over half of U.S. adults report feeling lonely. Along with the isolation that has emerged over the past 10 years, we have seen an aggressive climb in that same period of anxiety, depression, and substance use disorder, to the degree that now 1 in 3 adults in the United States have a diagnosable mental health condition or substance use disorder. The U.S. Surgeon General recently highlighted this connection between loneliness and poor mental health. He emphasized also the research findings that isolation, loneliness, increases the risk of heart disease, stroke, dementia, and premature death. Our loneliness is killing us. But on the other hand, social connection and the science supporting it suggests that human connection is healing. It improves immune function, lowers rates of anxiety and depression, improves self-esteem and empathy, mitigates individual pain and stress, and protects societies against violence and antisocial behaviors. While loneliness kills, connection heals. The longest running continuous study on human beings is the Harvard Study of Adult Development, which began in 1938. The longitudinal study was designed to show what factors lead to healthy and happy lives. You might expect things like physical activity, or eating well, or education level, or degree of wealth to be most predictive of happiness. But you know what factor makes the biggest difference in human flourishing? Friendships, human connection. So here's my point. Othering and avarice, and by avarice I mean that age-old vice of greedy accumulation without heeding the needs of others. Othering and avarice lead to isolation, unhappiness, and decay. But neighboring, kindness, and belonging lead to human flourishing. And whether you relate to these facts from a deeply religious standpoint or from a moral standpoint, or you're just interested in the social science that predicts how societies thrive, I'm trying to say this, that fostering kinship may just save our collective lives. I love the greater Waco community. I've been here 21 years. I'll probably be buried here. And one of the reasons is this. I see in Waco a community of people who are earnestly dedicated to building kinship, to forging unity, to working for community. I mean, the reason that Aaron and I stay here is because of you. I mean, you're the reasons that we stay in Waco. And the way forward for our community is united. Not homogeneous, as if we're all sort of prey to some sick group thing where we all weirdly come to the same conclusions. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about shared humanity, being arm in arm. We can be united in caring for each other and caring for this village of ours. It's important at this very important 100-year anniversary of our United Way that we celebrate how this organization epitomizes our best instincts: to connect, to give, to unite under a banner of belonging and neighboring and care. For Waco Family Medicine, we know up close how United Way does this. For years, United Way has helped patients living with dental pain get needed extraction and dentures. And United Way has also funded mental health care for numerous uninsured individuals who are experiencing poverty. And instead of me, I wish one of them were up here describing the impact of United Way, because it's life-changing. Among a host of organizations like ours throughout our community, United Way has been the instrument of our collective efforts to give generously and care deeply for our neighbors. Children and the very old both seem to get it. What matters most is human connection. So let's take note, because we are in an era where the forces of division have us by the four corners and intend to shear the fabric of our community. Let's stand in solidarity against those forces, determined to be in relationship with our neighbors here in the room and our neighbors who never dreamed of being in a room like this. Let's remember that before differences in political belief or any number of identities in which we accede, we are flesh of each other's flesh and bone of each other's bone. Let us choose with courage to see every them as us, to be menders and builders of connection in order to save our own lives and to save the lives of each other. Thank you, United Way, for your leadership in this way.